Hi, today I wanted to talk about glute activation. So, first things first, why do we want to talk about glute activation? The main reason is after 11 years of having worked with a ton of different people, seeing a lot of different cases, you sort of pick up on different points of commonality among, different groups of people. And one of those commonalities that we see in the fitness industry, which is really, really common, is weak, or sometimes you can call them inactive glutes. And one of I'd say our lifestyle today is probably a major reason as to why the glutes become inactive. You can think about how much time we spend sitting. The average job is probably a lot more sedentary today than it used to be. And so if you are sitting on your glutes, you can imagine there's not a lot of great blood flow that's going towards them. And so that just makes them a lot more stagnant and ultimately atrophy, right? And so they're not really turned on at all, right? And so that's something to keep in mind. So what we're trying to do by activating the glutes is create, better leg balance. One of the things that can come from inactive glutes would be, you can get knee pain, you can get hip pain. And so those are two things that we can sort of mitigate by just sort of reactivating those glutes so that they're alive and well. So one of the things you want to think about is your hip flexors. So trying to loosen up your hip flexors in something like a couch stretch. I'll link a video so you can kind of get an idea of what that looks like. And so by stretching out those hip flexors, it'll kind of give those glutes a chance to sort of just wake up and activate a little bit more. In terms of the pelvic tilt, so when I say pelvis, it's the hip region. And so understanding how to shift your pelvis forward or backwards. And so that's a really big, important part of being able to activate your glutes. So for a lot of people, if they have, for example, an anterior pelvic tilt, their pelvis will be, pushed back. And so their glutes will not necessarily be as active, right? And so we want to think about squeezing our glutes. We want to think about pulling our pelvis in, or rotating our pelvis forward, for example, in order to be able to activate those glutes. So if you can't understand that positioning, you're not going to be able to activate those glutes in different bigger component movements, which is why we kind of care about creating awareness around the pelvis. And so there's a couple good exercises that you can do that would really help activate those glutes that are a little bit more simplistic, so a little bit more, less muscle groups involved. And so that would be the glute bridge that we really like, and the banded hip thrust. And I'll include a couple of links here and here, just so that you can see, again, what those look like. Again, you should be feeling those. You should be feeling those in the glutes. I also recently just did a free seminar to sort of be able to sort of create a little bit more awareness around, general public, and trying to create that same awareness. And then finally, once you understand loosening of the hip flexors, how the pelvis is supposed to be tilted in order to activate those glutes, then, and you've sort of done it in different exercises, and you can think of squeezing your glutes on their own. So without having to think about it, with your brain towards your glutes, you can send a really strong signal, and then boom, all of a sudden they're firing. Now you can think about implementing them in more compound movements, such as the squat and the deadlift, right? And so when you think about those movements, there's a lot happening in a squat and a deadlift. So if you don't have good awareness around how to squeeze your glutes in a squat or deadlift, you don't want to start just with that. You want to sort of be able to build up towards that, so that you can really activate them when you're going for your compound lifts, and those are bound to sort of help your overall numbers because you're creating more motor unit recruitment. Thanks.